We've got some exciting information for you today about how to increase your recurring billing without changing a single thing and to get a 10% bump. Now, 10% depends on how much volume you are. That's going to be a big bump. If you're doing $1 million a year, that's an extra $100,000. Doing $10 million a year, that's an extra $1 million. It's a lot of money. And when we talk about recurring billing, what we're talking about is anything you're selling on a monthly or weekly or annual basis. So that might be that you've got software as a service and you're billing people every month, or you've got a done-for-you service that you're billing people every month, or maybe you're shipping them a box, whatever it might be that you're doing this, some kind of a membership, recurring billing, retention billing, whatever it is that you do on a regular basis that's periodic billing. We are going to show you how to get an incredible increase without selling more products, without putting more people in the front end, without spending more money on advertising. We're just going to show you how to take what you already have and get a lot more of it. So I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Brian, now. He's going to explain how simple you can do this.
Yeah, so it's super simple to actually get relatively big boost, in recurring income up to usually around 10% or so more, which can be a lot of money. And the reason is every single month, if you have any kind of recurring income or revenue going on, you're probably losing a fair amount of sales to declines. On average, the majority of businesses that we've seen are probably losing approximately 20% or more of their reoccurring subscriptions. In some cases, I've seen just a week or two ago, I saw one that was high as 50% unique decline rate. So that means half of their attempted sales were falling through on the reoccurring end. Now that's relatively high there, whereas the average again is more like the 20 or 25%, but that really adds up. So again, that means if you're processing $1 million a month, that means potentially $250,000 of that might be getting tossed out per month. So that's millions of dollars over the course of a year right there. And, again, this can be due to any number of reasons. It can be like maybe the person doesn't have, a high enough credit limit. Maybe their debit card, ran out of money in their bank account, at that basically given time. One maybe bank is flagging something for fraud, even though it's not. You've probably gotten a handful of warnings from, your credit card or bank in the past where they're like, did you really make this purchase? Yes or no. And, quite oftentimes, even if you say yes, you have to retry the transaction again to make that go through. And not everyone takes the time to do that. They kind of use that as an excuse to say hey, am I really using this membership? Or, hey, do I really want to take a couple minutes to re-enter my credit card info again, or, blah, blah, blah. So, you can lose a lot of money there. And if you're not basically paying any attention there, it can be even worse. And, we've seen a handful of businesses that say, well, that's okay. We retry the card X amount of times. And, sometimes they'll try once a day for 3 days or 5 days or a week or whatever it might be. I've seen others that, sometimes attempt it multiple times a day. And even though, yes, you can get some additional sales through, you can also hurt your merchant processing. Because if they see that, hey, you're basically getting a lot more declines because you're essentially trying these bad cards over and over and over and over again, that can actually hurt the health of your merchant account over time and actually result in even more declines, going through that normally wouldn't. Having said that, on the flip side, if you never retry or, only retry 1 or 2 other times, you could be leaving a lot of money on the table because, it might just be that, hey, basically Joe Schmo, maybe, he was over his limit, on one day, but, he basically paid off the card or put some money in the bank and, the next day, perfectly fine. And he might be perfectly fine for years and years to come there. Or it might be, hey, something's being flagged for fraud incorrectly that, that person may have stayed for months or even years, but you're losing them right now. And when you lose that one sale, oftentimes it's not just your losing that one sale for that 1 month. You might be losing all the reoccurring that they might stay for months or even years to come in the future. So it really adds up. So if you save even a portion of those, that can really add up to a lot of money over time. And basically, typically, we actually have a service where we help with this right here called Increased Billing. On average, we can actually give you about a 10% boost in your reoccurring revenue over time. That's your overall reoccurring revenue over time. Now, how is that done? It's not like you instantly overnight get basically 10% more on the reoccurring, but what happens is, hey, let's say you're losing a quarter of your sales to declines. Well, we can go in and, our software will automatically analyze all the reasons that you might be losing those, and we'll attempt to save ones that we think can be saved. And how it basically does this, it actually does it in a few different ways. It will actually analyze the individual card holder and their cards and the issuing bank, and it will also analyze the available merchant accounts that you have, and it might say, hey, out of all this info, maybe these days and this time, is the best time to attempt to reprocess this guy, but not that guy. Or on top of that, might say, hey, maybe we should process it on this day at this time on this available merchant account or this available mid, because it might be more likely to go through on one versus another. So we basically analyze a bunch of data like that, and we save a portion of the declines there. And what happens with that is not only will it save more declines, but over time, if you save a single decline that 1 month, rather than losing that sale indefinitely, if that one person stays for 6 more months, you're getting 6 times more revenue off that one guy right there. If that guy stays for years, you're saving 1 or 2 years worth of revenue that you basically otherwise would have lost. And that can really, really add up over time right there. And on top of that, when you use a service like that, we're not just saying, hey, we want to tempt the card over and over and over and over again, which actually costs you additional money through your merchant account every time you attempt to make that sale. But on top of that, when you do that a bunch, it causes your decline rate to go up even more, and it can cause the health of the mid or the health of the merchant account to go down, which can cause them to actually give you a higher chance of getting those declines on even ones that you normally might not. So we basically take the approach of saying, hey, let's charge the card less times, but be smarter about it. So let's look at, say, hey, maybe basically Joe Schmo has a card that's issued from a certain bank, and we think that based upon basically Joe Schmo's history, that the sale seems more likely to go through on this day at this time, so let's attempt to charge it there. Or maybe of the available merchant accounts you have, one might know essentially Joe Schmo is issuing bank more and would be more likely to say, hey, this probably isn't fraud, so let's maybe be more likely to get that sale through. So when you combine all that stuff together, it can really save a substantial amount of declines that you otherwise probably would have either thrown out or potentially ruined your merchant processing by attempting those too many times and probably not even getting the results that you wanted right there. So if you do any kind of recurring income, whether it be, subscriptions to basically digital product, or whether you send like a monthly box, or there's a service or software that you sell, as a service every month, any kind of recurring at all, you definitely want to look into that. You definitely want to see what essentially your decline rate is, what you might be losing right now. And we can help you with all that. We can even help you look into your merchant processing to see exactly how much we could be saving you, how much you're losing each and every month. So if that's of interest to you, make sure to check out the link below in the description now. Check that out right there and start saving some more dough. Because again, I can't tell you the number of guys, even very, very big places, just losing literally millions of dollars that they didn't even know about. So with that, Sean, I'll basically turn it back to you.
I think one of the key things, Brian, is that most business owners have never, ever looked at this. They don't look at their merchant accounts because the assumption is the bank or whoever processes this and they give me money. But once you started processing with them, you probably don't really actually know what your fee structure is, what you're getting charged, how it's working. The fact that in many cases, when we look and analyze these merchant accounts and the recurring billing for people, we find an enormous amount of money that's being spent by businesses that they don't actually realize they're spending. We just had a recent client, I think we saved him $55,000 in fees and expenses. He didn't even realize we're there because they're all incremental. So he isn't thinking, oh, I'm spending this or I'm spending that, but he's spending a nickel here, 7 cents there, $55,000 a month on average that he didn't actually need to spend for things that he either wasn't using in the merchant system but getting charged for, or didn't need even though he was using them. And then on top of that, when we look at the rebills, the decline rate on his membership, it wasn't outrageous or anything, but everybody has declines. Normally when we talk to business owners, they're like, nope, mine will go through. Well, of course, because you look at the ones that go through and say, look, here's what we collected. Of course, all the ones that go through went through, but you have to look at what didn't go through. And I'm going to tell you, this is a mistake that we made now for, almost 20 years for me. Never thought about it, never dug into any you this, and most people don't. And despite all the money and millions of dollars that I'd sold in memberships and different things, we never worried about the declines. We worried about what went through. And then we figured out eventually, well, we should go find out what didn't go through and figure out the easy way to recapture as much of that as possible, because it's already money that we've made. It's already customers that want the product. And we can do all of that now automatically without bothering a customer, without getting to try to resubscribe, without trying to get a new credit card from them. All the things that tend to break sales and even get people to request refunds for prior months that they've been using a service or receiving a product. So we do strongly suggest that you take a look at what you have, that you do realize you're getting declines. And if you're not recapturing a substantial portion of those declines for this month and future months, then you are losing out on a lot of money. And if you're doing more than $100,000 a month in recurring or even in sales, you probably have a lot of money that you can add straight to your bottom line by taking a few easy steps with us. So we hope you enjoyed this information. We hope, more importantly, you take action on the information and check out our other videos and keep watching as we share with you the things we've done right and wrong in our journey to selling more than $100 million online. Let you learn from our mistakes and successes so you can avoid the mistakes and be even more successful in your business.
Yeah, and with it as well, before we go, I just want to add like one really good example. When you said there was that one essential business that, we found $55,000 a month and basically extra fees that he didn't have to pay or that he didn't know he was even paying. Just want to show on the other end, there was a business that had fairly decent merchant processing, but they didn't even know that they literally had a 50% unique decline rate. And they were literally losing about $16 million a year in lost sales that the guy had no clue that he was even losing. Where if he was making, 1 or 2 million more, he'd be ecstatic on that. Because again, that adds to the net, the bottom line right there. And he had no clue. He thought, okay, maybe I'm getting like a 5% decline rate, maybe a 10% decline rate. No, 50% right there. And even if he saved, a fifth of those right there, you're talking millions of extra dollars in the bottom line, making a major difference in his business right there. So even if you think, hey, okay, it's nice to make a little more and save some, I can almost guarantee you 9 times out of 10, the businesses that we talk to are losing way more than they really think. So definitely take the time to check out that link. Definitely like and subscribe if you like this info, or if you want to hear a bunch of other topics on how to make more as an entrepreneur, how to make more on the back end or on the front end, how to sell more, all sorts of entrepreneur topics. Make sure to subscribe now and make sure to watch our next video. So with that, thanks guys.